Good morning, everyone. It's really lovely to sit with everyone today. These past few days, or this beginning to 2021, makes me think about something I read recently. Someone described 2021 as coming in with a sort of hold my beer kind of, I think in the drag community, we would do that, taking off the earrings, like we're getting ready to go in. And that's a little bit how it feels that this year has started. And my name is Joanne, by the way, if I did not say that, please forgive me for those that I don't know. And I'm here in New Paltz. We have a small affiliate here that is an affiliate of the Village Zendo. So I'm sitting with Manchin, who's a Sangha member and has been staying with me, and our resident four-legged Dharma teacher, Ruby, who many of you may have seen if you've joined us online before. She has a tendency to take a nap on the hashiki when we're sitting up at the Zendo and sort of help herself to what's being offered. And that's the spot in front of the fireplace, and it's the most comfortable. So she's no fool. And this morning, as we were sitting our first period of Zazen, we heard a slurping, and it was Ruby helping herself to Manchin's coffee. So again, she'll take what's offered without discrimination. She's a true practitioner. Whatever is arising, she avails herself of. And Manchin's cooking would be a smart thing for her to take if it's being offered. As I'm hesitant to share that during our most recent retreat, Manchin acted as our tenzo. So while we were sitting sesshin, I got to eat wonderful, wonderful meals, oryoki in the morning and a bag lunch in the afternoon, and then a sit-down dinner. And what she did beautifully was fold the ingredients of the first meal into the second and then into the third. So moment after moment, taking, the ingredients of our lives and folding them, into the next moment, and then making room for the next set of ingredients to be folded in. So perhaps we think, using the ingredients of our lives means that we don't have to eat what we've created. But I think we are both chef and consumer. So, we have to be cognizant of that. And I think that also kind of dictates, our palates, if you will, dictate how we use those ingredients. So recently I was watching one of my favorite blog guys, Dr. Z-Dog, Zubin Damania. And I'm kind of addicted to him probably because he feeds my own personal feedback loop. He loves nurses and talks about how great nurses are. So therefore, of course, I love him. But he was giving a talk on the differences between the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines from a healthcare standpoint. And I was watching that, but he drifted into something called moral foundations theory. So please, my apologies for those of you psychiatrists, sociologists, folks that are all too familiar with this theory, but it was brand new to me. And it really struck, it was resonant for me in these sorts of times. So moral foundations theory is a social psychology theory intended to explain our moral reasoning on the basis of innate, or cooked in, if you will, modular foundations that he sets up in dyads. It was developed largely on the work of psychologist Jonathan Haidt with his colleagues Craig Joseph and Jesse Graham in 2004, and they built on the work of one of their mentors, anthropologist Richard Schwader. So they discuss, if you will, a moral palette of contrasting taste buds. So they put care against harm, fairness versus cheating, loyalty versus betrayal, authority versus subversion, sanctity versus degradation. And they've expanded upon this as well. They have other areas too, but these are the 5 sort of biggies that they look at. And each of us, are going to have slightly or maybe radically different flavors that we're drawn to. So the theory was originally applied to cultures and has since been looked at sort of political frameworks, which of course in and of themselves could be considered cultures. And it was overwhelmingly seen in their study that liberal people, left-leaning people, Democrats, tended to lean towards stress versus care and fairness versus cheating. Those were the taste buds that lit up for them the most. Whereas those on the right seemed to value loyalty versus betrayal and authority versus subversion. And those were the taste buds that lit up for them. So we have 16 Bodhisattva precepts, and they're amazing. They're these amazing set of guidelines that are not edicts that are set in stone, that are hard and fast. And if you have studied the precepts and taken Jukai, you know that these are not hard and fast rules that are not malleable. They are for each of us to chew on, to really masticate and, taste all of it, have it hit all of our, moral taste buds. And then as moment and moment arises, utilize that precept appropriately in that moment so that we can actualize good for others, to really fall back on the three pure precepts. And they exist in time space and are adaptable to every time being. They can shift to meet the situation. But our ideas and our thoughts and our beliefs, they love recognition and validation. They love it. So I think about social media and the algorithms it uses to pull us in. And so many of us have shared, that sort of it was amazing. My phone just knew what I was thinking about or looking at, and of course it's not that our phones have ESP, there our browser histories, our likes and dislikes are all too present. And that algorithm is fed, and it confirms and affirms what we have already set up, in terms of our personal likes and dislikes. So technology is amazing. In the hospitals, I've seen amazing utilization of technology. A patient where everyone says, I have no idea what language this gentleman speaks. He's from Africa. I spoke a little French with him and we could communicate a bit, but I have the language line on. And within seconds, it's determined that he speaks Fulani, a language I'd never even heard of. And we're communicating about his needs. And a radiology report comes back on a CAT scan and the doctor and the radiologist who's reading it, somewhere is having difficulty really comprehending it. And we call a colleague of that doctor's in Pakistan. And within minutes, this expert is reading that CAT scan and we're getting great diagnostic information. So technology is incredible. And yet there's the opposite side of that, care versus harm, if you will, where our devices can really, as I was saying earlier, pull us in and feed our own personal little loops, that affirm us and sort of solidify a separate self. So this past session, we practiced a week long of silent practice together from the 26th to the 1st of the year. Traditional way we've done this for years at the Village Zendo if you're joining us. But this year it was different in that we were virtual and we were practicing session in our own homes. And that shift really laid bare habits of mind, really made us look, I had heard an interview from people, that it was trying, to practice session at home, but also rewarding to bring the monastery into our home and see how it shifted our physical environments. But as I said, really laid bare our habits of mind. And our homes are maybe to some degree held together by our habits of mind. The things, the items in our home, the objects in our home are really extensions of ourselves, feeding back, yep, I am like that. I like this type of furniture, these types of things. constantly affirming us. And of course, our technology does it even more so. So I like to, see things that agree with me and affirm what I believe. I press like and the feedback loop begins. I value caring over harm, and here's a post that confirms it. My moral palette helps me decide what to click, and that coupled with my geographical location and travel patterns and all of that feed the beast. And I can imagine that this is true for QAnon supporters and anti-vaxxers and folks that believe in a plandemic. So each person's moral palette is being affirmed again and again right in the palm of their hand. A photo of a statue of a Confederate general being removed comes up on my media feed. Like, heart, maybe a comet. Put it in a museum. A photo comes up of a police officer being crushed between two doors, begging for mercy. Angry face, sad face. A photo comes up of Democratic House Senator and Senate members trying to hand masks to Republicans who refuse to put them on their face. Angry face. Definitely a comment, probably one I can't share with you. But what would it be like? What would it be like to just have our moral taste buds swapped out for a second? Just, this breath. Different set of moral taste buds are the moral taste buds that light up for you. Is it possible to just make that switch for a second? And maybe the thought of even making that switch triggers that sanctity versus degradation taste bud for you. Because in that, the theorist suggests that dyad arises from disgust, revulsion. So, maybe that deep reptilian part of our brain that protected us from pathogens, from bad things, gets stimulated. And we can just translate that a little bit more to, that's horrible, you're horrible. I know as I watched the news on the 6th and the days following, I looked at that television and I said, who are these fucking idiots? Who are these morons? More than one occasion, and probably less graceful language. So I would be a liar if I said I felt only compassion for this perceived other, these perceived idiots. And even if I was to feel compassion, I fear that in and of itself may be a separation as well. It's still a form of othering, perhaps, if it's not pure. And I'm not sure I'm in a place where I can feel that purely right now. So we don't avail ourselves of the meal that's being offered when we're othering. When we see, or I don't at least avail myself of the meal that is being offered when I separate myself, either from a place of pity or, from disgust. Either way, I'm not enjoying that meal. I'm not taking in that meal. And some meals are difficult to digest. And this one certainly is. And Fusho, in her talk recently, this past Thursday, talked about her pushback to that, hashtag we are better than this. We are not. We are this. We're not separate from it. I'm not separate from it. So in Uji, the way the self arrays itself is the form of the entire world. See each thing in this entire world as a moment of time. Things do not hinder one another, just as moments do not hinder one another. The way-seeking mind arises in this moment. A way-seeking moment arises in this mind. So, I think we need to hack the algorithm to be sure we don't miss this moment, this way-seeking mind, for some reflexive response to this moment. So Zazen is the tonic, and we've used it well and continue to, it over and over, noticing our self arraying itself in the form of the entire world, nothing left out. So case 67 in the Book of Serenity, the flower ornaments scripture says, I now see all sentient beings everywhere fully possess the wisdom and virtue of the enlightened one. But because of false conceptions and attachments, they do not realize it. Because of false conceptions and attachments, they do not realize it. Hack your algorithm. Notice your habits of mind and where you seek confirmation and validation. While many of us remain isolated, during this period of time, it's even more dangerous, I think. We don't have our regular sounding boards that say, what the hell are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Or here's another piece of information. So social media, extra poisonous now, or has the potential to be extra poisonous. Here's our technology doing something amazing. We're together on a Saturday, sitting silently, practicing this way. And yet, it could just as easily be a Facebook feed feeding me the same garbage I already buy into. So I think when we broaden our palette and we see beyond our biased feedback loops, self-generated or otherwise, we can impact the time being most skillfully. We can be fresh and unhindered. So I'm going to leave you with a poem by Emily Dickinson. And I have this personal poet fairy in the Sangha. She shall remain nameless, but she has taken umbrage with some of my poems, and I have to agree. Often my poems at the end of talks have been less than good. So, she schooled me and is sending me weekly poems. And I think this one speaks to this: we can be better than this. Not that we are better, but we can be. And the end is a little Christian within terminology, but I'll speak to it when I'm done. I'll just read the poem. So it is, forever is composed of nows. Forever is composed of nows. 'Tis not a different time, except for infiniteness and latitude of home. From this, experienced here, remove the dates. To these, let months dissolve in further months, and years exhale in years. Without debate, or pause, or celebrated days, no different our years would be from Anno Domines. So forever is composed of nows. 'Tis not a different time, except for infiniteness and latitude of home. From this, experienced here, remove the dates. To these, let months dissolve in further months, and years exhale in years. Without debate, or pause, or celebrated days, no different our years would be from Anno Domines. So no different our years would be from Anno Jurices, from this moment, not separate from anything, no different. So I encourage you to use the rest of this day, go deep, hack your algorithm, just for a moment maybe.